Dee, what do you think about doing a little true crime for the channel surfers today?
I'm excited. I would like to do that.
A wealthy family,
Interesting.
grandson with Asperger's, a
Ooh.
grandfather shot in his sleep, a mom lost in the ocean.
Wow.
Sounds like a good plot?
Sounds like a good one.
Well, it's Netflix's The Carman Family Deaths. Let's watch.
Remote reality, yeah, that's the key. Unlocking stories wild and free. With the host, side by side. Channel surfers, let's ride.
Hey, channel surfers, welcome back to Remote Reality. And if you're new here, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button on YouTube. Make sure you follow on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We're pretty new here. We've been doing this for, I don't know, since the end of April. Are we still new?
It's only been 6 months. I feel like we're still new.
Fresh?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm talking about the podcast. I'm Lauren, your friend and lawyer host, where usually we are dissecting our favorite podcast. And today we're getting into some true crime stuff. You know what? I like to think of these reality TV shows as their own little mysteries. We're trying to figure out what the editors are trying to trick us into that week, reading the clues, trying to figure out what the storyline's going to be, because some of that stuff is so fake. But today we're going to be doing my thing, y'all. We're going to be looking at a criminal or two criminal cases with the Carman Family Deaths. And this is Steve,
Her paralegal and reluctant sidekick.
yes, who I drag kicking and screaming into this. Especially the true crime. You know what? Dee years ago quit with me over a criminal case.
It was
We don't have
a
to go into the
nightmare.
details because confidentiality, but that's not her favorite part of working with me. But this one's good.
Yeah. I always find this stuff interesting. It's just when I have free time to watch TV, it's usually not documentaries or something like that. I usually try to go for a comedy or action, something like that.
There's action here.
Yeah.
Action.
True.
All right, so let's jump right into the Carman Family Deaths. This is a 2025 Netflix documentary. It came out right before Thanksgiving. It was ranked #1, but now there's a bunch of other really good stuff that's coming out. And it's pushed it back. So we've been watching and planning on doing this podcast for a few weeks. What was your first impression of Nathan Carman?
Actually kind of liked him. Some things I thought I could relate to.
I don't like being around people either.
I don't either.
Just kidding. Just kidding. I love being around people.
That was a good one though. I honestly didn't really think he killed anybody.
My first impression was where we see him being questioned by an attorney. And the question that was asked was, did you sink the boat intentionally after you killed your mother? So I don't know if this was during the boat insurance case, or it must have been during the boat insurance case, because I don't think the documentary brought us into the Slayer case that his aunts had brought against him. And we'll talk about that. I was surprised, though, that he objected. If he's represented by counsel, I mean, I wouldn't mind my client throwing out objections on the stand. It might be distracting to a jury, so it might not be great. I guess it just depends on the situation. So anyway, his objection, it wasn't exactly right. It was pretty close. If this was phrased in a compound question, that's where you're asking two questions at once. It would be, did you kill your mother and then sink the boat? So if you say yes, like I sunk the boat, then you're also saying yes to you killed your mother. This is a little bit different, though, because it assumes facts, not an evidence. It assumes one of the disputed facts, which is, did he kill his mother? We're assuming that conclusion. So I would object to assuming facts, not an evidence. And then 403, which is more prejudicial than probative. Essentially, this question is prejudicial because it don't look great if he killed his mother. And again, it's a disputed fact. So that would have been my objection. But I was surprised because compound question is one of the rules of evidence in state courts and in federal courts. And I was like, damn, he was pretty close. He was pretty close on that objection. Also, his flat affect made me know he is a little bit neurodivergent. I have friends with autism, friends with children with autism. This actually reminds me a lot of my friend's son, who I've known since he was 2 years old. Super smart kid. I mean, he can graduate high school like a year early. He already has college scholarships. He wants to stay with his friends, though. And he does sometimes have that flat affect when he talks, but he also has some animation at times. He talks to people that aren't there, which is like the coolest thing. I'm always like, tell me what they're saying about me. I can't hear them. But I love that kid so much. And I just love his mind. I love where his mind is. Also, very early on, we see a autism specialist attorney. Her name is Elizabeth Kelly. And she says that right off the bat, there should not have been an interrogation because people with autism are frequently misunderstood. And we see that throughout this documentary. We see the police talking about how they're thinking something's off with this kid because of the way that he's answering questions.
I think his dad probably understands him the best when you see the clips of them talking to his dad and his dad, you know, explaining how he likes to be alone and things like that. I think he has the best grasp on Nathan.
I just thought it was so neat that we have these attorneys, an autism specialist attorney, and then also his defense attorney in the criminal case that never went to trial. But his defense attorney said he had a godson with autism. And even though his doctor said, don't take another case that will kill you, he was like, no, like I really believe in my client and I'm taking this case.
Absolutely.
So I love that there are attorneys who are familiar with autism and they're defending people because it's got to be a skill to be able to tell a jury how their mentality might shape what you're perceiving. Like you got to put yourself in their shoes. It immediately brings me back to the Kohberger case because remember, Kohberger was on the spectrum and the court actually denied evidence of this unless he decided to testify. He would have to testify in order for that to come in, which right off the jump was something that was strange to me. Like, why couldn't you get a doctor to come in and testify? But, you know, the behavior of driving at night and being alone, that loner behavior, that's something that you saw the police in that case think was odd. And if somebody's behaving oddly, obviously they were able to go into a house and kill 4 people in a very short span of time without leaving any sort of evidence. Obviously, that happened. Okay, he took a guilty plea. Then again, the death penalty was on the table. I've got to get off this soapbox. Let's focus here on Nathan. So while I'm watching this show, one thing I tried to do was let's remove ourselves from the evidence of his neurodivergent behavior. Like, let's take away the flat affect. Let's take away the fact that he wants to be alone. What evidence do we have left? We've got 2 different cases here. We have the case of his grandfather, John Carman's death, and the case of his mother, Linda Carman's disappearance. And Nathan Carman in the center of it, questions from his family. Okay, so we're just going to take this chronologically. We're going to start with the grandfather in 2013. So Nathan's grandfather, he was a wealthy real estate developer. He was worth about $42 million. What do you think about that?
That's pretty wealthy.
That's stupid. That is stupid wealthy. This person's money is probably making so much money he can't even get rid of it, which is why he's got trusts set up. He's giving these people $100,000 a year on Chakalos.
I think the daughters, I was going to say, I think the daughters were getting like $25,000 a month.
Yeah. But Nathan, I think they said he was getting about $100,000 a year. Whole grandpa said, you know what? You need to go to college. And Nathan said, why the fuck would I want to go to college? Nathan didn't even care to move out of a camper that was in his parents' house. His grandfather was like, well, no, you got to live somewhere nicer. So come live with me. Come live somewhere.
I'll pay for it.
I don't think it was with him. Right.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll pay for it. So grandpa is paying for his place to live, giving him money to live off of. Even though he wasn't giving him the $100,000 a year, he's still buying the kid a truck and making sure his rent is paid, his lights are turned on, which makes the question, where's the $100,000 a year going? I mean, Nathan was so depressed after his horse died, he didn't care to even leave the camper. He just wanted to live there and pee in bottles. He had obviously some severe depression.
Mm-hmm.
I've
Yeah.
been there. I
Right.
mean,
Well,
postpartum depression, I've
yeah,
been there.
that's
Okay.
no joke.
Digital servers, we're taking little breaks here, and I've been eating. And the beeping you're hearing is my blood sugar. I'm type 1 diabetic, and we have just crossed into the urgent low stage. I'm 53. It's going to go back up. So there's probably going to be some goofy talk. There's probably going to, more than normal.
She's not drunk. It's her low blood sugar.
And it's just me. It's just normal me. Anyway, back to Nathan. So his grandfather was shot 3 times in one of his homes in December 2013. Now, what is the key evidence? Why do they think that Nathan is guilty? First of all, Grandpa said he was going to cut him off because he wasn't going to college. Yeah, I don't think it mattered because Grandpa was still paying for all his stuff. What do you think, Dee?
I agree. He was paying for everything. When he was living in the camper, his, parents got so worried about him, they went ahead and had him, hauled off to like a
mental hospital.
And
every day, Grandpa John is, and I don't know if it was his parents so much. I know we see his dad, Carman, in the documentary, but really, Nathan's grandfather, John Chakalos, was like a father to him. His parents got divorced, and he was with his mom. His mom was his primary custodian. And his grandfather was living closer to him and the one that was really involved in his life as if he was a father.
Oh, yeah. He visited him every day. He was taking him pizza. He didn't want him in there. He was extremely close with Nathan.
He threatened to cut Linda off. He's like, the money's going to stop for you, honey, unless you take my grandson out of this hospital. Yeah. And she didn't care. She was like, no, we need to do what we need to do. But eventually, Grandpa's the one that got him out of the hospital.
Right.
I don't know how much Clark was involved in Nathan's life, at least on a day-to-day basis. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the $100,000 a year, to me, that wasn't persuasive. Another argument was that he was going to get money outside of probate from his grandfather's insurance. So we saw a breakdown. About $200,000 of that went from John's insurance. It looks like his mother gifted him $200,000. So I don't know if this was his mom, Linda, doing a qualified disclaimer, which is where you pass on what you would have gotten on it. But that doesn't make sense. If it was from the insurance comes tax-free. Usually qualified disclaimers come from the estate for just like estate planning, income tax. It's a tax minimization. But it said that $200,000 was a gift from his mom. And then $13,000 was from a 529 plan, which a 529 plan, that is an educational IRA. Essentially, it's money put into like an educational retirement plan. I know in our state, it's tax-free going in and it's tax-free coming out if it's used for education. $13,000 is nothing. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of money, but as far as being in a 529 plan, it's not a lot at all. You really want to put that money in early so that it can grow. And in 2013, $13,000 is what you can give each year as a gift so that it doesn't go toward what we call a taxable estate. Mm-hmm. Taxable estate per person. Gosh, it changed. I want to say in 2013. Actually, no, it might have been lower then. Right now, it's like 14,000. Once you get to 28,000, and it keeps getting adjusted for inflation. Anything above that that's given during life, at death, you add that amount that you give during life, plus the state, half of it gets taxed and goes to the government, which is why you have trust and everything set up. Anyway, I'm rambling. My blood sugar's low. The long and the short of this is $400,000, $200,000 of it coming as a gift from his mom. That's what, 4 years of what his grandpa was giving him?
Yeah.
Alive?
I mean, there was no indication that if his grandfather died that he would get any of the $42 million. I think it went to like his mom and siblings.
And he had written those letters to his grandfather's estate planning attorneys, those very detailed letters. He wanted to know who has to die in order for me to get what? Which, yeah, that could be suspicious, I guess, for a prosecutor.
Yeah. I think he also asked who would be in control of what he got.
Right. But is that necessarily suspicious? It also could be financial planning. Dee,
True.
think about what we do. How many times do we have to tell our clients to go figure out what they're getting in the trust before we file a bankruptcy?
Well, not only that, I mean, we have a question of, do you even anticipate an inheritance in the next 6 months?
But we're not talking about inheritance. He was asking questions about the trust.
Trust.
We have to
Yes.
know, because once somebody files, the property becomes property of a bankruptcy estate. We have to
True.
disclose that. Like, people need to know what their assets are in some situations. And every time somebody is a beneficiary of a trust, these questions that he wrote specifically to these lawyers are exactly what we get our bankrupt clients to figure out.
Very good point. So
Look,
it could
this
have
guy
been
is
that.
living in a camper blowing through $100,000 a year somehow. I'm not going to be saying he's got the best financial planning. We don't know what was going on. There can be completely innocent reasons for this.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So could it be suspicious? Yes. Could it be completely innocent? Yes. Does it prove murder beyond a reasonable doubt because he wanted to know what he was getting? I don't think so.
Mm-mm.
Is it suspicious? Maybe. But also, we see Nathan saying his grandfather, if anything, would get mad at him for not asking for money.
Right.
Nathan, to me, doesn't come off as somebody who cares about what other people think or gives a crap about other people anyway.
Or even money that much.
No, he's a loner. He's living in an RV pissing in bottles.
Right.
To me, it's not persuasive, which
No.
may be why he was never charged with the death of his grandfather. Never. The police, they were doing the best they could to scrape together any evidence and bring it to the assistant attorney in the state that could bring these charges. And they said there's no probable cause, but probable cause is low evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Is there evidence a crime could have been committed? And it's not even based on admissible evidence. You just bring everything in the kitchen sink to the grand jury, or you waive and just indict anyway.
Right.
And you're like, does it look like a crime was committed? And the assistant attorney in the state is going, no, we can't bring these charges. So that's a very low burden. They'd have to prove a very high burden at trial beyond a reasonable doubt. But the state is going, no. So let's talk about more why they think he killed his grandfather. Now, this part to me, I go back and forth on this case, but this Sig Sauer rifle. So there were bullets recovered in the grandfather's body. And the ammunition in it is ammunition that would have been used in a .38 caliber. On November 11th, 2013, so about a month and a half before John Chakalos' murder, that was December 20th, 2013. But on November 11th, 2013, Nathan uses an out-of-state license to purchase a .38 Sig Sauer semi-automatic rifle out of state. And when he is questioned in January 2014, so 2 months later, he is questioned and he says he didn't buy or have any guns except for some sort of pellet gun. But they found a receipt for this 6 months after John's murder. Investigators found a receipt for this gun linked to Nathan. Why didn't he tell him about that gun? He said it was lost within a month and 2 weeks, but that wasn't the question. The question is, did you purchase it? Why didn't Nathan tell that to the investigators? What do you think?
I honestly have no idea. That's one of the confusing points for me because I'm on the fence with this. Sometimes I'll hear the evidence when I was watching it and think, yes, he did this. And then there would be other things and I'd be like, no, he didn't do this. It's the first time that I've not had a definitive place on which side that I'm going. I still, to right now, as we're talking about it, can't decide.
So this gun is a tick in the column for me of, this is sus. Why didn't you say anything?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that has anything to do with his neurodivergence. When you're being questioned by police, you are in a stressful situation. They're not trying to make this easy on you.
Mm-mm.
Is he automatically on the defense at this point, thinking, well, shoot, I lost that gun, but that I'm absent-minded, but that could look suspicious. So why mention it in the first place? Maybe that's where he's at. We've got two different things we're looking at, too, when we're looking at the death of his grandfather. One, in a criminal case, are they going to be able to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt? And then two, what do we just think happened in real life? Aside from this high standard in a criminal case, did he do it? I don't think we've got enough in a criminal case to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. I'll go ahead and say that right there.
Yeah, I didn't think they did either.
And this is why the charges were not brought. So let's just turn to the question of did he do it? Also, I'm on the fence. This would be something that perks up my suspicion. Why didn't you mention it? Is it because you're guilty, or is it because you're getting questioned by police? And these questions that they might even sit there and say, look, this doesn't look good, Nathan. This doesn't look good for you. And maybe he's thinking, yeah, this won't look good if I admit I bought a gun a few weeks before and shoot, I'm an absent-minded person and I lost it. But they're not going to believe that. So hard to say. One thing is the police kept saying his behavior is so strange. And it makes you wonder, did they get that narrow vision? Were they looking for facts that would prove he's guilty, or were they looking for the truth? They said that they thought he killed his grandfather because he refused to answer questions about the gun. He refused to produce the gun. Law enforcement still hasn't found the gun, which, where did he hide it?
What did he do with it?
You know, one theory is that he took it on this boating trip with him and his mom, and it's somewhere at the bottom of the ocean. All right, but you had 3 years up into that point to find it. Where the hell was it in the meantime? He shoved it up his butt? Was he a gun mule?
Yeah, didn't him and his mom go fishing the same night that the grandfather was killed?
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, dandy. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, because that was part of the evidence that they thought.
Don't the investigators go and see him getting onto the boat at the marina? Don't they have evidence that he went there? I mean, this is 2013. You would think there would be some sort of cameras. Is there anything showing him carrying a gun onto that boat? Maybe. I mean, that was 12 years ago.
Yeah. They also
they didn't have cameras.
Well, they also used surveillance from his apartment. So you would think that they would be able to see him carrying one in and out. Even, let's just say hypothetically, it's not to get rid of it, but to go and supposedly kill his grandfather. Right. Wouldn't he be carrying the gun? And wouldn't it show up somewhere in the surveillance?
Good point.
Yeah.
Now, also, his defense attorney says that 600 other guns
use the same ammunition.
Use the same ammunition.
Right.
And a semi-automatic, that is not one that does pow, 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 pow. You shoot one round at a time. And there were 3 rounds shot into the grandfather. It just makes the loading easier. Now, the aunt says at one point in the documentary that people have been convicted and put on death row for less evidence than this. Was she talking about Black people?
I don't know who she was talking about.
Or rich, white, young men. I don't think she was making some sort of social justice statement here. I just don't think she knows what this system looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, the family had made up their mind it was Nathan anyway, so.
And the uncle did after he learned about the gun, because the uncle's first reaction, not the uncle, the cousin.
Yeah.
The mom's cousin. His first reaction was, there's no way Nathan would do this. There's absolutely no way that Nathan would do this. His grandfather was like a dad to him, but the gun is what made the uncle flop sides, which to me, that's not a lot of evidence to flip sides on.
Honestly, he could have been buying it for somebody else. He could have been buying the gun for somebody else and just didn't even think about it until they brought the receipt up. Because would think.
We know that he says he's an absent-minded person. We're going to get into this when we get into the night that he and his mom leave on the last fishing trip she goes on. No, that was the night of his grandfather. No.
We get into
it tonight, because they say he destroyed his GPS and they destroyed his computer. But also, he's supposed to meet his mom for this fishing trip the night that his grandfather dies at 3 a.m. And there's an hour that's unaccounted for. Let's start with the GPS and computer. What do you think about at some point after his grandfather's murder, he has destroyed his computers and his GPS from his car.
That's suspicious. That's
Now,
suspicious.
we don't know when after his grandfather's murder he did this, but it doesn't sound like the police asked for it. He said if they would have asked me for it, I would have given it to them, but they never asked. And at some point, destroy my stuff and get a new one. He says he would have given it to him if they asked. So were they doing their job? Or did they maybe not think he was guilty at first? I mean, it seems by January when they find out he had a gun, he didn't say anything about. They were narrowing in on him. Could be suspicious.
I mean, I've had cars with GPS. I've never destroyed the GPS or the computer systems in them. So,
That's a good point. I've never had a GPS.
yeah,
I used to
well,
print stuff out on MapQuest.
true.
It's a good point. But Nathan also, and I wonder, is this where we cross into the lines of how his brain works? Have you ever taken a microwave apart and reassembled it?
Not a microwave, but there has been times I'd be like, I'm just going to take it apart and put it back together. Some things.
These are the things he was doing when he was isolating in his house. For funsies, we're just going to figure out how this microwave works.
So it's possible that maybe he thought he wasn't destroying it. He was trying to take it apart and put it back together like the microwave and just didn't successfully put it back together.
Or just messing around and tinkering with stuff. I mean, he tinkers with his boat. He takes things apart, puts them back together. In his house, he buys this house that needs all of these repairs. And he's like, okay, great. I'm gonna do this. Not that he ever successfully does this. Even his uncle says he's not going to, renovate this place and it's still in shambles. But it's almost like his mind is curious as to how does it work. So I don't know. I wonder, is this another area where we are trying to get into his mind, which mine's neurodivergent anyway. Me trying to climb into another neurodivergent mind is
what they find suspicious or looks suspicious could just be somebody trying to figure out how something works.
Because they have a fascination with it, which
it's
probably like me making beaded bracelets.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, well, taking things as a whole. So right now we've got the missing gun. Right now we have the destroyed GPS. Could there be innocent explanations? Yes. What do we think? So the trust and estates questions, yeah, that could lean strange. Now the cousin, he went to the mom after the death of the grandfather and said, don't get on the boat with Nathan by yourself. And she says he's not the first person to say that. So she also says, what am I supposed to do? This is my only child. Do you think Linda believed that Nathan killed her father?
She believes something. I don't necessarily know if it was Nathan because she's the only one in the family that took the lie detector test that the detectives did, that she didn't pass the first time. And I think the second time was inconclusive. So I feel like she knew something, but I don't necessarily think that she knew it was Nathan. She may have known something completely different. For all we know, she could have hired somebody to kill her dad.
She could have killed him.
Yeah.
And maybe Nathan was like, look, you get away by boat and leave me here and we'll just say the boat sank. Definitely something that crossed my mind because she did not have a great relationship with her dad either. Apparently, and this is outside of the documentary because, of course, I went and I watched there's a 2020 episode back in, I think, February about the Carman Family Deaths. It was called Family Lies. So I watched that and I read some articles. I did some deep diving into like the Aunt Slayer case. And apparently she hit Grandpa John in the balls and got an elder abuse complaint on her when he called the cops. So things had even gotten physical. We even heard about how things got physical. They both were Spitfires and didn't always see eye to eye. So that could be a possibility. Lie detector tests, they aren't admissible in court. They are kind of a pseudoscience. There was the part where the priest said for 5 hours, Nathan and his mom, Linda, were in the church. Linda was sitting in the pews. Nathan was up at the altar with his arms outstretched. And at one point he got close and he heard Nathan begging for forgiveness and he was crying. So that could be suspicious if the way that the prosecution would say is that he's begging for forgiveness because he killed his grandfather. Also, though, when Nathan's horse died, he kind of lost his religion and he went to a place where he was between, is there a heaven? Is there not a heaven? Kind of like thinking demons were coming after him. When bad things happen, sometimes we look at what did we do? And some people will look at higher powers. Did I displease God by doing this? I'm so sorry that I betrayed you. Is this why you let someone kill my grandpa? I mean, that could be what he was saying. Like, I displeased you. Please forgive me. He may feel like he's guilty of killing his grandpa just because he turned away from God or something like that.
Right. But I also look at it as people who are in church asking for forgiveness, they all haven't committed a murder. I mean, that's where you go when you're asking for forgiveness for anything.
And ironically, had he been in confession with the priest, there would have been a privilege.
Right.
A clergy privilege where the police couldn't have said anything. So I thought that was kind of strange that the priest even said anything. But I guess it's because he wasn't directly telling him. He was just overhearing it. But it wasn't anything specific. So again, another fact that maybe leans guilty, but could be innocent. There goes that thought. I was just thinking of something.
Well,
let's talk about the missing hour. So Nathan was about an hour late meeting his mom at the dock that night of his grandfather's murder. And the police say that was unaccounted for. And this was around 3 a.m. What Nathan says happened is he was driving to the dock and he missed the exit. So he turned around to drive back and get on the right exit. And he missed the exit again. So he turned around and finally found his way to the dock. I must have murdered a shit ton of people if this makes you guilty of murder because...
Oh my gosh.
And the police say, you go to this fishing place all the time. How would you miss it? I do this on my way home. And there are straight up 3 or 4 different exits I could get off of. And if I miss them all, then I find myself on the interstate on the way to Columbia with a 10-mile stretch where I can't even get off to turn around. That has happened. I have missed 4 exits because I'm thinking of something else. And then I'm like, well, crap, I got to drive another 10 miles before I can turn around. And I've done the same thing where I turn and miss it again.
I have missed my exit, not realized I missed my exit, go 30 miles before I've realized that I missed my exit and can turn around. That's, 45 minutes right there.
You are just a slayer. Get it, D. It was you. No, there was an attorney that a long time ago that I used to date. And I bought us tickets. You know him. I bought us tickets to a Bob Dylan concert. And this was back this was probably back around 2013. So I had printed out MapQuest to go to Bob Dylan and we could not find the place. An hour and a half of me getting lost. We missed the whole damn concert.
Honestly, I don't think there might have been one time that I have been with you that you've not missed an exit or taken a wrong
one time where I haven't. Okay, guys. So this is sometimes your brain is thinking about something and oh well, the rest is out the door. This is the same with the fishing bait. So he bought eels. I would like to see the receipt. How many things of eels did he buy? Did he buy other types of bait? Did he have bait already on his boat that was not live bait?
Okay, but was the eels the night of the grandfather's murder or the night that the fishing trip that his mom went missing?
Well, there you go. This is the problem with going fishing all these damn many times because you're right. This was the mom.
Yeah, this is when the mom goes missing.
But similarly,
so we'll cover that.
Bait, let's cover it now. With the bait, same thing. Absent-mindedness. He was absent-minded 3 years ago when his grandpa died. Guess what? It ain't changing.
Well, and they also said that he bought a bunch of bait. So eels was left in the truck, but does that mean that other types of bait was taken?
And if you plan on coming back here, are you really leaving the eels in the truck because, on purpose? That's gross.
Right. Yeah.
No. No. So I'm trying to think if there was any other evidence that linked him to Grandpa's death.
I don't think there is. I think we've covered everything that the police found suspicious. The family already, said he had done it.
So apparently the neighbors didn't hear anything around 3 But there was a neighbor that said around 2,
Mm-hmm.
she heard gunshots, she heard noises. It didn't fit into their narrative because if that's when this neighbor heard noises.
They had video surveillance from the apartment that cleared him at 2.
So this just gets swept under the rug. Well, I try to figure out the source of these noises. Also, John Chakalos, he had a girlfriend, and they don't address this in the documentary. So he had been married for, I think, 57 years, and his wife had recently died of cancer. But he had this little side piece who was 25 years old. Earlier that day, he and Nathan had been shopping. Actually, I don't know if he took Nathan shopping with him on this, but he went to some sex shop, bought some dildos and sex toys. They had receipts for this. And he tried calling the girlfriend while he was shopping for these, and she didn't answer. So then he goes out to dinner with Nathan. Nathan kind of helps care for his grandfather and take him around because his grandfather had bad eyesight. And they get back to the house, and then Nathan's grandfather answers phone. It's the girlfriend about 8:30 at night, and she's ready. She's purring on the phone. She's ready to do some phone sex. So he shoos Nathan out the door. Good to see ya. And then 10 minutes later, apparently that call is finished. 10 minutes. So they had plans to go to New York for Christmas. Grandpa and their 25-year-old girlfriend. He gave her money. She knew that he had stacks of hundreds kept at his house, although nobody took money.
Mm-hmm.
And then apparently he made 2 other calls after that until 10 o'clock at night. And I don't know anything about those other calls. So I'm sure there was an investigation into the girlfriend. I don't know what she might have stood to gain. I don't know that she was like added to the will quickly or anything like that.
They also mentioned the potential for a mob connection because of his construction companies.
And that with construction, there is usually organized crime involved.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like they investigated that though, and they didn't find anything. Again, they didn't find any money taken. Could it have been a hit that somebody else put out in the family to get money?
Yeah. That was one of the things that had crossed my mind, was that Nathan has just been a scapegoat for somebody.
Now, what clothes was he wearing that night? How did he get to and from the crime scene without getting blood in the car? You just think there would be more forensic evidence. Of course, could have been dropped off in the boat on the fishing trip.
That's true.
Were any other things found in the house, like any other DNA? That's the case against Grandpa. Again, criminally, I don't think we've got enough to charge him. Now, not looking into everything that comes up with Linda. Let's say it's 2013, 2014, and you're looking at this. What do you think?
I think there's enough evidence.
Well, I don't think there is anyway, like even with Linda. But do you think he did it? So we've got the lie about the gun and the missing gun. We've got the $400,000 gained. Got the GPS and computer destroyed sometime after Grandpa died. We've got the letter about what he's getting after who dies. We have that he's the last person to see his grandfather that they know of.
Right.
The missing hour.
I think that everything could be suspect, but at the same time, I also think there's logical explanations for most of it.
But are we believing the logical explanations, or are we thinking that these are related to neurodivergent?
I don't think they could, if it couldn't be proven.
I'm not talking about proof. I'm talking about real life. What do you think happened at this point?
I still am standing with, I think he was set up. I think someone else did it, but they went to some lengths to make it look like he did. He's a loner. He loved that horse. The horse was really the only friend that he had.
And he loved his grandpa.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say.
And financially, that's like 4 years of what grandpa was giving. But also, set aside the fact that grandpa is also paying for everything. Your rent, your food. That's more than $100,000 a year.
Well, that's what I was...
I don't think he benefited financially from this.
He didn't benefit financially. And honestly, his grandfather and his mother were really the only friends and advocates that he had in his life. His entire life. His grandfather had been a huge advocate, and his mom. I don't see somebody going and killing the 2 people that he relies on the most in his life for.
For money that you would
He
have
was
been
being given anyway.
even more had they
Right.
been alive.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, I'm not convinced at this point either, not from a criminal standpoint, but from a did he, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I'm not there. All right, so what happens later? 3 years later, after Nathan has spent all the money pretty quickly on buying the chickenpox boat, which he bought for about $1,000 in 2014. So it was like right after his grandpa died and he got the money. He got this boat for $48,000. And then he bought a house that he was doing repairs on. And apparently he's still getting money from his mom or something to pay for all of his living expenses. So again, he hadn't been completely cut off. 3 years later, goes on a fishing trip with his mom. That morning, they see him at the dock. He is taking trim tabs off the boat, which I sent a message to my father-in-law and brother-in-law. I was like, why would someone take trim tabs off a boat? They cannot think of a good reason. It apparently helps with gas, fuel efficiency.
Looked it up too.
That's what Nathan said, was that he was trying to help the fuel efficiency. But he was also doing the repairs in the water. So it basically keeps the hull of the boat down. So there's less friction, so it's better fuel efficiency. But he had just put a new motor on it. That's why I think he was wanting to go out farther to like try the tuna fishing at the Block Island. He's doing these repairs in the water. Like, he loves doing repairs, but nobody's saying he's great at them. We saw it what the house looked like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's putting
And he's doing them in broad daylight.
There was that part. So is he going
He's
to
at the
do
marina
repairs
in broad daylight. Yeah.
in broad daylight? Now, they're going to argue it both ways. The side trying to prove that he made this boat sink is going to say, well, yeah, he wanted people to see it, so it didn't look suspicious. And the defense is going to say, yeah, idiots, he would have done it at night. He don't like being around people anyway. He would have done it at night. Which, if you don't like being around people, then why not do it?
Right.
It can go either way.
Exactly. The dilemma that we've been in through this
saw
whole
him doing all of these repairs on the boat. He said that he didn't see Nathan bringing any fishing poles onto the boat. He didn't see him bringing any food onto the boat. But if he was planning this trip for a while, like, apparently the emergency food and stuff was already on there. Maybe it was already there. Now, Putty failed. Assuming that the boat was taking on water, I wondered, could it have gotten as far as it did before it sank? Assuming it was taking on water the whole time.
Good point.
And would it have gotten as far as it did before they realized it was filling up with water?
Well, he said that he noticed the engine sounding different. And when he went to look, that there was about 2 feet of water.
But this is after they had made their first stop and fished. And then he convinced his mom that they should go out farther to do the tuna
Go out
fishing.
further. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
And what the state is trying to say is that he meant to take the boat out there and kill his mom, because the ocean is vast. It would be hard to find a body, which somebody told Amy Bradley is missing, because they say it's very rare that you recover a body in the ocean, which that entire Netflix documentary kind of hinges on, well, they would have found the body.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's missing. This seems like such an elaborate scheme to me for it to have been intentional. He would have had to know, first of all, how far this boat could get with that size holes before it capsized, and that he would land in a spot and drift out to a place where this boat was leaving and would find him.
Mm-hmm.
He would have had to know all of that. He would have had to know the drift analysis, which they said was wrong. And they're saying that the holes in the boat is what caused him to sink. So he would have had to know at what point it would sink and at like what time, what point. They're trying to say he was only on the chicken pox. I don't know. It's like they're saying two different things. They're saying he was only on the chicken pox until he saw this Chinese freight carrier in view, and then he made sure it sank. But they're also saying the holes caused it to sink. So which is it?
Contradiction.
It's
like they have two theories for it. That's what it sounds like.
Very tight. And they're also saying the boat can't sink that fast, but then they're saying, oh, he saw the Chinese freight carrier, and then he sunk it quickly. So which is it? Because it can be both ways.
And he also was hiding for 7 days while the Coast Guard and everybody was looking for him.
Which, did you check the video? Like, prove it. did you check video cameras at other marinas and other parking lots? Can we see where he pulled up somewhere else? Also, this is like a national search, so like nobody could have seen him in these coves.
Right. He's
And
all over the
how-
news at this point, so people
How
would
did
have
he
seen.
know that that Chinese carrier would be there? And unless he did sink the boat immediately, how did he know that the repairs that he did 7 days before would hold up and that he'd be able to sink the boat that fast as soon as he saw it? And how would he know to be in its path? It's just way too complex. And
They also thought it was suspicious that he had rations on the lifeboat and everything.
Right.
They didn't think that even having something like that was normal.
now we see autism experts that say, look, this is part of how our brains work. This was a man with autism. He's like, we plan everything out. And I'm about to do a crossover. I don't know who watches 90 Day Fiance, but this reminds me of Paul. Paul, when he goes to Brazil and he packs these huge Tupperware containers and he's like even packing condoms so you can put them on while he's wading through the water so that bacteria don't get up his woo-woo. It's just like over planning. And he had food and he had a water thing to purify the water so that he could drink it straight from the ocean.
Right. But there's two things that I thought about when they were talking about this. One is I absolutely would be somebody that had a lifeboat with rations like that and the converter thing on the lifeboat, everything. I would totally do that because I overthink everything. But the other thing that I was thinking about when I was watching it is, they're trying to say that that's unusual, but why would you think that's unusual for someone who's traveling 60 and 80 miles out into the ocean? Like, I would think that would be common on a boat if you knew that you were going to be,
Right.
you're not sitting in a lake, you're not sitting in a river fishing.
Right. Good
So
point.
why do they think this is so uncommon?
Because it fits into their narrative.
Right. But you see what I'm saying? The logical side of my brain is just saying, why would you think that's unusual if they're traveling 60 and 80 miles offshore to go fishing?
All right. So reasons why they think that Nathan killed his mom. They say that the way he was able to jump out of the raft, grab the life raft, and then climb up the ladder, he wouldn't have been able to do that had he been out at sea for 7 days. It doesn't fit his narrative. Now, one woman, she's like, if he wasn't on his feet for 7 days, he wouldn't be able to walk, which when he's sitting there peeing in bottles in the RV, I don't think he's getting up out of bed to pee. I have laid in bed with depression for weeks, and I guess I'm still getting up to go to the bathroom, but like I can get up and walk around once I take my medication. And
my thought was he's probably not peeing in the lifeboat. If it was me, I'd be jumping into the water to pee and then get back up into the lifeboat. So his legs and limbs would be moving some if he was doing
Maybe.
something like that,
Maybe. Now, one of the things that we're not thinking about is like the way that the water moves. And have you seen the rescue of the 4 people that had a capsized boat a week ago and they were in the water for 24 hours? Let's take a look. Okay, so there are 4 boaters in Florida around Thanksgiving, and their boat capsized, and they spent 24 hours in the water. But you see them. This is 24 hours later. They're all standing in the capsized boat. Now, this boat also, they were standing in water, so they were in water the whole time. But this child right here that is exiting the boat, I say child, he was 18 years old. You can see how he's walking. He was holding up the 90-year-old the whole time. This is the 42-year-old. But you can see how they were kind of walking there. Now, with Nathan, what I saw in that video, like they were like holding onto his vest, helping pull him up the stairs. This guy wasn't
they were
skipping up the
assisting
damn
him.
stairs.
Yeah, they were helping him all the way up those stairs when I watched the documentary.
Now, another thing, the life vest, he had a knife on it and his life raft deflated. If he was having trouble getting up over something, maybe he deflated it so he could just swim to the life raft. Or maybe something got hung up when he was getting off the boat. But like if you're having trouble like getting up and climbing over something and you know you have a life vest on and you're going to have to at least do some minimal kicking to get over to this raft, like this ring to hold on to.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you just deflate it so you can just get to the ring.
Right.
So you enter into the water without having to climb out. I mean, makes sense to me. So that's one of the thoughts there.
Well, the Navy SEAL expert also had said that it was not uncommon for people in his situation to have, like, he'd seen it in combat soldiers, a rush of adrenaline
Yes.
that would
And
help.
you hear about people that get in these situations, like where they're going to save their own life or save someone else's, and they pick up a car, like to
Mm-hmm.
get somebody out from under it. So
You know, he's been out there for
absolutely.
7 days. He finally sees a ship coming, and he just put, that adrenaline's just going.
He also said he was focused on staying hydrated and making sure he
Mhm.
spaced out his meals, which that is where this evolved brain of his saved him potentially. Now, another thing is that before they were able to rescue him, they went into his house with a search warrant and they found that letter in his car saying not to talk to the police. The very last thing, and we see this at the beginning of the documentary and they don't say it out loud, the very last note on there says, because an attorney told me not to talk to the
Mhm.
police. It's like, I can't prove my innocence. Like, there's no point in trying. I'm thinking that this was something an attorney told him related to his grandfather's investigation. It's even written on a legal pad. Like, maybe an attorney
Mhm.
slid him a pad and was like, take notes on what I'm about to tell you, why you shouldn't be talking about
That's
your
exact
grandfather.
Yeah, that's exactly what it sounded like to me. I thought it was just notes to self. I mean, I have a whole, like, 2x4 bulletin board hanging on my wall of Post-its to remind myself of different things because I forget them all the time.
And I don't think this is related to mom. I think this is related to
Uh-uh.
grandfather. And despite this, he talks to the police. So if this
Mhm.
was a plan for mom, he's not following it. I think he just didn't think about it because this was, look, they are thinking I'm guilty because they think my behavior is weird with grandpa. The attorney said,
Right.
don't talk to him because it's not going to help. Even though I'm innocent, they're not going to be looking to prove my innocence. So then when mom disappears, he's not thinking about grandpa's case. He's thinking about, where's my mom?
Mhm.
So I didn't think that made him look suspicious. We talked about the bait. He didn't call for help. He said that he told his mom to go out and grab a fishing line because he needed a fishing line and also to keep her busy while he fixed things. What did you think about that?
I can see why they would think it was suspicious that he didn't call for help, that he didn't tell his mom there was water on the boat. But I can also see why he wouldn't tell her, not wanting to worry her. He repeatedly said, as far as not calling for help, I didn't think the boat was going to sink.
Which may answer my next question. Why not tell her to put on the life vest?
That's true. At least tell her to put the life vest on. That was one of the areas, not necessarily that part, but when they were questioning him about what the last things was that he heard his mom say and stuff like that, he couldn't answer. He kept saying, I didn't hear her. And I did think that was a little bit odd or suspicious that if a boat is going down, you want to know where your mom is. You're listening for where she is. Why did you hear nothing?
Well, it may have been the sound of water rushing in,
Mm,
the
that's
sound of
true.
things breaking apart,
Yeah. I mean,
maybe
honestly,
even blocking out what you heard mentally because it was traumatic.
true. Honestly, at the end of the day, my brain is just like, look, if this guy planned his grandfather's murder, planned his mother's murder 3 years later, I think he would have a much better story than what's actually happened.
This is true. I just think it's very elaborate to think that this was planned.
Yeah.
Like for the ship to be the ship that rescued him,
Right.
almost ran him over, like for him to know exactly when it was leaving, exactly when he would cross paths with it, like for him to be able to sink the boat that quickly when they say they can't. There's just,
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot. Now 2 weeks after this happened, well, they also said the boats just don't drop out from under you like that. But then they also say he went on the life raft that long and the boat obviously just disappeared real quick as soon as he saw the ship.
Yeah. Contradiction.
Which is it? You got to prove it.
Make it make sense.
Yeah, the stories just kind of go every which way. Like the drift theory, They said that he would have been in New Jersey. If he had sank where he said he sank, he would have like gone back and hit land. But the defense says this is kind of junk science. It doesn't take into account the other currents in the water, and there's a lot of things. And then you see the expert for what would be the prosecution or the insurance company, plaintiff, saying that these are highly scientific things. Like this one buoy that they based all the data off of, again, one buoy, it's used for climate analysis. All right, but we're not using it for climate analysis. So what the heck? Like, well, great. It works for climate analysis, but it's one buoy and we're using it for something else.
Right. And what I thought when I saw that part was, okay, so then why don't you just reverse it from where he was found and see where the boat supposedly sank then?
Well, they said he would have gone southwest. So that means he would have been even farther off in the ocean where it sank. And he would have had to have known all this, not only known when this carrier was going to go in the path, like hypothetically, if this is what happened, he'd have to know when it was to go in the path and where he needed to be for it to drift back. So he would have had to be like a meteorologist figuring out the weather conditions, or he went out there and sank the boat thinking he was going down with it. But then why would he save himself? It's just way too, I don't think a jury's buying it because it's way too complex. You got to keep it simple. And this makes no sense. Not even to them. They're flopping it around every which way. The thing that triggered it, they said, was that he made that claim for $85,000. So, yeah, it would have been a profit. I can't believe that he had a $48,000 boat with an $85,000 insurance claim on it. Again, was his mom supporting him at this time? He wasn't getting the house in her will. Not that she was even declared dead at that point. But yeah, I mean, I think his lifestyle changes once mom and grandpa are out of the picture. He's going to need something.
I mean, even with what you just said, if he's killing his mom because he wants the money and the house and all of this stuff,
which he's not getting the house. But.
Right. But killing her out on the water where there's no body and she could be missing for years before she's actually
declared dead.
Right.
Which is not exactly a good way. What happened. So what we don't really see in the documentary, the aunts brought a slayer suit, which a slayer action is done in probate court. So they brought it for the grandfather's probate, but they brought it in New Hampshire. And he represented himself for some of the time, but then when he got attorneys involved, they made an argument based on jurisdiction to get it dismissed. What they said is that because the grandfather was a resident of Connecticut, his house was there. Remember the home that he was killed in was not his house. It was like his secondary house, his summer house or whatever. His doctors were all in Connecticut. Like the Bible that he prayed with every night was in Connecticut. So because Connecticut was his residence, it's the place he intended to return. That would have been the appropriate venue to bring the probate slayer case. Now, what a slayer case is, I remember learning about this in law school. But if you kill somebody, you don't get to inherit from them. So the aunts brought that so that he wouldn't get to inherit from his grandfather through his mother. Now, they brought it in New Hampshire, and in New Hampshire, the court ruled that, more likely than not in a civil suit that he was the killer and of his grandfather or of his mother, that he wouldn't get anything from his grandma and his mom and his grandpa. In Connecticut, there had to be criminal charges filed. So this case was filed in 2017, so the year after his mom died. In 2019, the court in New Hampshire said this is not the right probate court. You need to go to Connecticut. So then when they're in Connecticut, this is May 10th, 2019, that the court in New Hampshire says, yeah, you got to go to Connecticut. Again, Connecticut, the slayer only works if you have the criminal charges. The criminal charge against his mom, against Nathan for his mom's death, was brought May 10th, 2022, exactly 3 years after the aunts found out that they would have to have criminal charges brought. And 8 years after his mom died. You think there's anything related? Does it say anything to you that these criminal charges were brought exactly 3 years after the aunts were told you have to go to Connecticut and you have to have a criminal charge? Say anything to you? To me, it screams influence and somebody is using their money and power to get these charges brought.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say. That sounds suspicious itself.
That timeline seems
Mm-hmm.
super sus. He has no criminal charges at all until the aunts find out that that's what they need to keep him from inheriting. So are the aunts doing this because they are blowing through money and need money, and maybe they had set him up and now they're trying to get it closed in? Or are they mad because they're convinced that he's strange? Maybe they don't believe in mental illness like their grandfather didn't. I know their grandfather, his sister, had mental illness and had been through shock treatments. And that's one of the reasons he wanted Nathan out of the hospital. And they said that was an old way of doing stuff. But I remember even in like the last 15 years, knowing people that have been put through shock treatment. So, you know, the grandfather was trying to protect Nathan, but he didn't seem to like believe that there was anything wrong with Nathan, or there was any like, not wrong, but like neurodivergency with him. Maybe the aunts thought that as well. I don't know. I just think it's really like, why are they going after this? Is it because they need the money, or is it because they feel like that would be justice? And his attorney spent a year preparing for his defense in this criminal trial. And in October 2023, the month that the trial is supposed to start, they find Nathan unresponsive in his death. Also, Linda, she wasn't declared dead until October 2023 by the court. Again, the finding of that lining up with when the trial for murder was supposed to start, not a coincidence.
I don't think so either.
All right. So the Carman family deaths. Why death? Why not murder?
Because they can't prove it.
I think our documentarian here is suggesting that we don't have murder here. We have death. Shady family and death. I went back and forth on it a lot. I, again, don't think that either of the criminal cases were proven. As far as the civil cases, or just what happened in real life, not the civil cases. Civil cases would be more likely than not. Just what happened in real life. I don't think it was this kid.
I don't think it was either. I think he was set up. I think somebody used him to get away with murder.
And I think the mom was a tragic accident.
Yeah.
Because this whole murder on the high seas scheme, there's too many theories and it's too elaborate. I mean, how does he know when this ship is leaving and exactly where the wind is going to take him to intersect with it? Or how does he sink a boat fast when you're saying it doesn't just drop out from under you? It's all like, whoever is saying it is saying what they need to say to match it to their story. And I'm just not buying it.
Yeah, I'm not buying it either.
What if mom survived? What if mom threw on her life vest even though you didn't tell her to? What if mom saw the water coming on? Unless there's, I mean, I guess they said that he could have killed her like day one, dropped her body somewhere else, prayed off. But
I still don't see any reason why he would want to kill his grandfather or his mom. They were really all he had.
It's a lot of money, but this kid knew he never had anything to worry about. So, Carman Family Deaths, what a ride. Thank you, Netflix, for that. Dee and I will be back on Monday with Sister Wives. So exciting. And stay with 90 Day the Other Way. Thanks for listening, Channel Surfers. Again, don't forget to like, subscribe. We post shorts on YouTube and Instagram from our full feeds. So it's nothing new. If you're watching the whole show here on YouTube, you're getting it. And thank you so much for your support. It means everything to us. We just love having our friends, the Channel Surfers, come in, hang out, and watch our favorite trash TV with us. And Dee has nothing. All right. Y'all have a good weekend. We'll see you next week.
I'm zoning out. Let's ride.
Tune in.